respected members of the center and dear friends, let me thank Vikar, Vikram, Sandhya, and all others for making this event possible. I stand here more as the author of a book, Cauvery, a long-winded dispute, brought out by the Hindu group, than as a senior associate editor. Of course, it is my profession of journalism that provided me an opportunity to write the book. I believe yet there is a fine distinction between an author and a journalist. I have an emotional connect with Bangalore. I first came to this historic, beautiful city with Dad 44 years ago on our way to Goa. Those days one needed to change the train at Arsikare from where direct trains were available for Goa. Before going there, Dad wanted me to have a glimpse of this city. So he took me to Tipu's Summer Palace, Visvesvaraya Museum. We had a boat ride, perhaps in the Alsur Lake. About 10 years later, one of my brothers chose to work here. It was in early 90s. His boss was none other than Vijay Malaya. My brother's daughter was born in Bangalore. My brother built a house in BTM layout, what he called a dream house, for which I had also contributed financially. Of course, he had a terrible tenant, and then it took a long time for him to evict the tenant. On October 8, 2002, when the then Chief Minister of Karnataka, S.M. Krishna, began his Padayatra, I reached this city in the early hours of the day on an official trip. In fact, before I left for Bangalore, a colleague of mine had even suggested to me that I cancel the trip, perhaps keeping in view the December 1991 disturbances. My reply was, I have enormous faith in innate goodness of human beings. I am not exaggerating, but I had experienced it on the eventful day here. A couple of years ago, my daughter did her master's in business administration from a prestigious institution here. Except for traffic congestion, she enjoyed and loved every aspect of Bangalore. Distinguished guests and friends, today marks a historic day. It was on this day, 31 years ago, that the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Jayalalitha, began her 4-day fast, seeking Cauvery water release and the implementation of the 1991 interim order of the Cauvery Water Disputes Tribunal. A digression, it was in 1994 that Brian Lara, who only 6 weeks earlier smashed 375, then the highest test score, became the only man to pass 500 in first-class cricket, and he remained not out at 501 for Warwickshire against Durham. This factor, 30-year gap or difference, was one of the factors responsible for me to write a book on the Cauvery. Within months of me joining the Hindu in October 92, I started covering the water sector, and naturally the Cauvery dispute is a key element of the beat. As one who has a fascination for figures and data, I have got drawn to the subject, Cauvery, more, as I have to deal with the figures of realization, shortfall, rainfall figures, anticipated flows. It was around the same time that S. Guhan, a scholar civil servant, who served as Finance Secretary of Tamil Nadu when he was barely 40, which is something uncommon in Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu CMs would normally prefer to have officers who are in 50s. Even the present finance secretary is 52. So Guhan wrote a monograph on the Cauvery dispute. It was around this time, 93. Of course, his work ended with the aftermath of the Gazette notification of the interim order of the tribunal. Naturally, my work, while giving a historical account of the dispute, tracing the genesis from the early 19th century, has focused on the post-1991 events. As I mentioned in the acknowledgement section of my book, Mr. N. Ram, about 10 years ago, advised me to work on an updated monograph. Let me touch upon a few aspects of the history of the Cauvery dispute. In my assessment, during the formative years after independence, there was an all-round acknowledgement that Karnataka needed to be provided with support in developing its irrigation infrastructure. Tamil Nadu, which had the prime mover advantage on the Cauvery, too must have had this view. In fact, in the 50s or even till mid-60s, no one in the lower riparian state got much exercised. There were correspondences, exchanges, but so over the they didn't get exercised much over the upper riparian states' plans for expansion. If at all any issue had cropped up, that would have been over to secure the release of Cauvery water for the time being. In fact, R. Thirumalai, another scholarly civil servant of Tamil Nadu, he belonged to 1947 batch, and he was known for his study on Pandyas. He was as scholarly on Pandyas as Neelakanta Shastri on Cholas. And Thirumalai got a fellowship, Nehru Fellowship, for his sociological history of Pandyan townships. So he narrated an anecdote in 1996. Thirumalai died in 97 or so. Thirumalai was Public Works Secretary in the early 60s. I think till Mr. Karnanidhi became CM, he was the Public Works Secretary. Public Works Secretary in Tamil Nadu handled water, particularly interstate disputes. Now we have Secretary for Water Resources. So he visited visited Bangalore once in the early 60s to meet his counterpart and Mysore Chief Secretary to ask for Cauvery water. The then CM, S. Nijalengappa, came to know his visit. And I still remember vividly how Thirumalai narrated. I think at the Hindu we had an association for journalists. So around 95, 96, Cauvery dispute was at the peak. 95, Northeast monsoon was a big failure, so a lot of hullabaloo was going on. So around that time we invited him, and then the central team came, visited Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, etc. So around that time we invited the association, invited Mr. Thirumalai to give a talk. So he said that, so he returned to his hotel room after meeting his colleagues in Mysore government. And there was a call from CM side. So CM asked him, what are you doing? When are you leaving, Mr. Thirumalai? He said, tomorrow morning after finishing my breakfast. So why don't you join me? That was so that kind of relationship prevailed. Thirumalai's point was between, because he was saying in 1996 when things were quite tense. And he had the guts to recall an event which was, which put Mysore, Karnataka in positive light. And he made that observation in Chennai, and that too among journalists. As one who has done a considerable amount of study on K. Kamaraj, Tamil Nadu's longest chief minister, 54 to 63, without any interruption. MGR was CM between 77 and 87, but 3 months, 3.5 months break, February 80 to, I think, June end, I think. So he was also a friend of, Kamaraj was also a friend of Nijalengappa, colleague, PR. So as one who has done a study, there's a lot of considerable amount of study on Kamaraj, I would say emphatically that I did. Okay. Oh. Acha, acha. So 10 minutes. So can I repeat from the beginning? Okay. So I would say, thank you. So as one who has done a considerable amount of study on Kamaraj, I would say emphatically that I did not come across anywhere Kamaraj commenting adversely or critically on Karnataka's plans. Being a man with robust common sense, Kamaraj must have thought it better not to rake up any issue over the Cauvery, as he had flatly refused Karnataka's claims over the Nilgiris, which were conveyed to him by none other than Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And this was recalled by Ramakrishnan at a meeting in Chennai in the late 80s, when he was still CM. As you all know, the Nilgiris was part of Mysore between the early 17th century CE and late 18th century CE till the death of Tipu, after which the British East India Company merged it with Coimbatore district. In fact, Ramakrishna he was saying that it was a meeting at R.R. Sabha, Mylapore. So Mylapore is a place known for cities, what shall I say, intelligentsia, okay? So I think a delegation, I think state's reorganization work was getting over. It was around the time a delegation from Mysore went to Delhi. And I think Hegde was there, I think Nijalengappa, and then maybe Hanumantaya, and then Virendra Patil. They were all there, that's what. And they told him, Prime Minister, you see, Tamil Nadu has got Madras, several hilly resorts. But we don't have that many, or rather, we don't have any. That's what I remember. There is, in fact, Ramakrishnan said we didn't have anything. There is Yerkad, Kodaikanal, Yelagiri, all that they have. So why don't you get back Ooty for us? So Nehru told them, hold on, I will have a word with Kamaraj. So he contacted Kamaraj. So after some, I think that must have been trunk calls around that time. So Kamaraj came on the line, and then Nehru told him, I have got a delegation from Bangalore, they want Ooty. There was Kamaraj was known for very economy of verse, okay? And he was not known to be an orator, okay? Then he just kept the phone down. Nehru said, this is the response I have received. Please. So that was how, I think, Tamil Nadu retained the Nilgiris. The reorganization of states in 1956, especially on linguistic lines, had aggravated the Cauvery dispute. And parochial interests gained greater credence. Let me say here that if the idea of Dakshina Pradesh, which was mooted in 1955, there is Dakshina Pradesh, something Madras, Travancore, Cochin, and Greater Mysore. Okay. So with the addition of Kannada-speaking areas of Hyderabad and Bombay states. So had this idea fructified in 1956, the Cauvery water dispute would have solved itself. Not just that, its implications would have been much bigger. Unfortunately and sadly, Kamaraj did not back the idea, though his counterparts K. Hanumanthaya of Mysore and P. Govindamenon of Travancore, Cochin showed interest. In fact, it was in Bangalore this crucial meeting took place. And I think Bangalore Palace was the venue of discussions. And Nehru was present, and then Nehru had not only all the CMs of the states concerned, they had a sort of a conference. And Nehru had, and TTK was, in fact, hosted sometime. TTK was the Union Minister for Finance, Industry. He was himself an industrialist. TTK was known to be a friend of Kamaraj. TTK did not open his mouth. Okay. And in fact, all this is recalled by C. Subramaniam, who was Tamil Nadu's finance minister during Rajagopalachari's period, and then he became minister in Kamaraj, and then he went to Delhi. And then, of course, he got Bharat Ratna for his contribution to the Green Revolution. So he was Union Agri and Irrigation Minister. So all that had been recorded by C. Subramaniam in his memoirs, first volume, Hand of Destiny. But this, I am adding some inputs from my paper, archival material. TTK was known to be an outspoken person, but TTK didn't open his mouth. Perhaps he knew Kamaraj's mind, so he didn't say anything. But I think a couple of, the day before the meeting, the conference took place, two leading MPs from Karnataka, they issued a statement saying that the Dakshin Pradesh should become a reality. And all that, and then he hosted, TTK hosted at Bangalore Palace a tea, and then in which Nehru had even one-to-one discussion with Kamaraj. Maybe TTK might have been there. But at the end of the meeting, it was decided no to Dakshin Pradesh. As part of my study, on the Cauvery dispute, I closely examined the issue of injustice that the state of Mysore was said to have suffered on account of the 1924 Pact. A.R. Banerjee, Mysore Dewan, in a statement as published by The Hindu on February 21st, 1924, while talking of the work of negotiators for the agreement, stated that, I quote from the statement, while the spirit of give and take reigned throughout, there was not on either side of the slightest determination or willingness to give in on the vital points, unquote. I could understand the manner of treatment of Mysore by the British on certain occasions. But the question was whether the 1924 came in the way of upper riparian states' plans for development of the irrigation network. It was since the late 1960s that the dispute acquired serious proportions and interstate and tripartite negotiations began. It was also around the same time that the Mysore government began to approve and execute the irrigation projects on its own on account of objections from the lower riparian state and the central government's hands-off approach. In fact, only a few days ago, I happened to come across some news clippings of The Hindu, 1959 and 1960. And then I think even Assembly had discussed It's all about the reports filed from Bangalore, my colleagues in Karnataka. In fact, at the 9:59, I think it was Mysore, I think, Public Works Minister was Channa Basappa. He accused Madras of violating the 1924 agreement. So, in fact, they went on extending the irrigation area and folks. So 1924 agreement, the sanctity was respected by Mysore. That was my point. So even at that time, within the framework of the 1924 accord, Mysore had wanted to expedite the implementation of irrigation projects, if one is to go by a report of the Hindu in September 1969, citing the advice of state government's technical committee. In fact, there must have been some element of anxiety. What would happen after 74, whether of course, the 1924 agreement, if it was operating adversely to the interest of Mysore, then or Karnataka, then the post-74 agreement would have been much more severe. That kind of anxiety is some, what shall I say, insecurity must have been there. In fact, in 1968, on June 30th, 1968, when Virendra Patil, CM, laid the foundation stone for the Hemavati project, the Public Works Minister K. Lakkappa publicly expressed, openly said, his state's keenness to complete the project by 1974. So 74 was sort of the cutoff period for completion of many projects, or as many projects as possible. Behind these actions of Mysore lay certain considerations. The back-to-back drought spells of 1965 and 1966 highlighted the need for stepping up food grains production all over the country. It was estimated the Hemavati project, when completed, would help to increase food production by about 35,000 tons. Apart from facilitating the irrigation of a lakh of acres in the drought belt of Hassan and Mandya districts. Besides, compared to Madras and Andhra Pradesh, the extent of irrigated area of Mysore was much less, 8.5%, as against 40%, 35% of the other two southern states. Other than Hemavati, Kabini Dam project was inching closer to completion, while Harangi and Swarnavati were also under execution. So all of which became a reality subsequently. In a nutshell, I am not able to convince myself about the justification for the theory of injustice. I strongly believe that much acrimony witnessed between the two states for about 30 years, since the late 1970s, as well as laborious legal battles, would have been avoided if Tamil Nadu's CM M.G. Ramachandran did not, during 3 rounds of talks in 1978, the last of which was held in Bangalore, disowned the understanding that was reached in 1976. In fact, there was a Cauvery fact-finding committee in 1972. So from 72 to 76, you had a number of developments on the formula, the water sharing formula. And then around 1974 November, some sort of an understanding was reached, and Jagajeevan Ram was the minister, agri and irrigation minister. He even hosted a dinner. So he was elated at the understanding, and he hosted even dinner for the CMs. But a few months later, February 75, Tamil Nadu started saying that, objecting to that quantum that they fixed, there is as utilization, something they said. So then, in the absence of, then 1976, January, Karunanidhi's government was dismissed. And 76 August, around the time, Jagjeevan Ram told the parliament that an understanding was reached among the states. And in fact, Tamil Nadu was under president's rule. Governor Sukadia was there. So this, the point I'm making is, in fact, it was sold. The Jagjeevan Ram was said that a historic agreement had been reached and all that. So Jit Singh Barnala in 1978, he was the Janata's minister for agri and irrigation. So he had even highlighted the essentiality of concluding an agreement early, as otherwise matter would get complicated. I'm unable to understand why MGR refused it. Maybe, in fact, I spoke to T Ramakrishnan. He was the only minister now surviving. And T is around 85, 1938 born, so 86. But he's still alert, very active. So he said, no, we went by the advice of technical experts. And all the technical experts are all dead and gone. So I am not able to. But perhaps MGR was, MGR came to power in 1977, July. And MGR was not seen as a son of the soil, okay, from the beginning. That was the problem he had. Whereas Karnanidhi was a great orator in Tamil, everything. So that card they always played against MGR. So MGR, and then it was MGR's first term, you see. So MGR would have felt that if Karnanidhi had developed second thoughts about that understanding, okay, he first said yes and then went back, Karnanidhi, a few months later. So why should I commit myself to a formula that Karnanidhi himself had some reservation? So that would have been only the political consideration would have been the only factor that must have been present in MGR, because in off late a lot of biographies has been written on MGR, but nobody dealt with Cauvery, MGR, all that. Okay. But the point was this. I think the Sukadia, there was a reference that I came across that Sukadia, the governor, of course he was from Rajasthan, he did not put his signature on the minutes of the understanding that was reached. So perhaps he would have also felt that Tamil Nadu was being pushed to agree to a formula, and then maybe my feeling is that had the center given some minor concession to Tamil Nadu for the sake of providing a new facade to the understanding, 7600, things might have been different. Let me also say here that I don't agree with the assessment of Gugan, as stated in his seminal work, that in the 1970s, center did not do much with regard to reconciling the differences between the two principal states. He says he was not satisfied with the performance of center. But I don't understand how he arrived at that conclusion, because the Cauvery Fact-Finding Committee was there. Of course, Cauvery Fact-Finding Committee was a sequel to Tamil Nadu government's withdrawal of a petition in the Supreme Court. Okay, and that was in response to the gestures or some CM was sounded by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and Karnanidhi. Still that the controversy is still there. Of course, sometimes people would say, that is the critics of Karnanidhi, that he had betrayed interests of Tamil Nadu because he withdrew the suit. But that was my point was that suit was only for Cauvery Water Tribunal. Okay. So the suit itself would not have led to any solution. It would have only paved the way for creating an environment for the solution. Okay, anyway, so the Cauvery Fact-Finding Committee was there, and then subsequent deliberations were quite exhaustive. between 72 and 74, 76, very many discussions and all that. It was unfortunate that no agreement was reached, even though an understanding was evolved in the mid-70s. Besides, in the Cauvery Basin states, there were powerful leaders, Devarajas, Achyutamenan, Karnanidhi, and MGR. So I think the prime ministers, Indira Gandhi and Morarji Desai, were conscious of their limitations, as they didn't want the center to be seen as unfair to any of the states, or they didn't want to push, particularly the southern states, to a point, beyond a point. Sometimes, whenever discussions take place about Madras, the history of Madras, the secessionist tendencies that Tamil Nadu or Madras displayed in the 40s and 50s, that also come up at times in academic discussions among policymakers, between politicians and all that. So perhaps they had this thought also. So, okay, fine. In fact, the Barnala was virtually pleaded with them, with M.G. Ramachandran, because at that time, Karnataka and Kerala, they wanted that 76 understanding to be honored. That is, they said that the 1976 understanding should be the basis for a settlement. Okay? But MGR wanted the entire matter to be reopened. So that was a very unfortunate, as in the case of 1956. So in the case of Dakshin Pradesh, Travancore, Kochi, and Mysore, they were, they favored that idea, but the Madras or Tamil Nadu didn't favor. So anyway, again, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee between 1998 and 2002 did everything that he could to reconcile the differences between the two principal states. And in fact, the deliberations that he himself had chaired in August 1998 for 2 days prior to the establishment of Cauvery River Authority. In fact, the parliament was in session, but still they wanted this dispute to be, at least the intensity of the dispute to be reduced to some extent. So the intent was quite clear. Of course, the outcome, of course, we didn't succeed, but they didn't succeed. But point was, I want to blame the center for not being earnest in at least those in 70s and till about 2002. Friends, we are now almost in the middle of the 15-year period stipulated by the Supreme Court in its judgment in February 2018. The Cauvery Water Management Authority and the Cauvery Water Regulation Committee are in place to see to it that the final award of the tribunal, as modified by the court, is implemented. So if somebody says that, if somebody asks me, what is your solution? I said that solution has been given. So it is up to us to acknowledge that it is the solution, and then you have to work on that, okay? But somehow the dispute has gone into our psyche or mindset to such an extent that we don't want to acknowledge even any positive development, as something that can make both states, the conditions in both states, more comfortable. The efficacy of the CWMA scheme was put to test last year. I think the performance was fairly satisfactory, even though the principal riparian states had their own reasons to feel aggrieved. The CWMA framework has to be strengthened, which will be in the interest of all. In the existing composition of the authority or the committee, there is no place for non-officials, farmers, independent water experts, or environmentalists, whose services can be co-opted. Of course, the authority should be much more transparent in its functioning. It can host all the minutes of its meetings, discussion on a dedicated website, or on a separate section in the Union Ministry of Jal Shakti. But the complaint of the CWMA chairman, present chairman, Mr. Haldar, is nobody is willing, he means is no one from Karnataka as well as Tamil Nadu, no serving engineers are willing to come to authority to be on deputation. So I have to work with a very, very limited staff, even though he has got, I think, sanctioned staff is much more. But then he says that I am operating on a very lean staff, so I can do only this much. So I asked him, why can't you be transparent? Why can't you put, because they make all the minutes, everything, it's all circulated through through WhatsApp and all that. So I said, why don't you put it on the website? And then he says that's the response I got. The authority should not restrict itself to maintaining status quo, but also be proactive and engage more with the stakeholders by seeking their ideas and proposals for a better and optimal utilization of the Cauvery water. I feel that in the years to come, the Cauvery river system is going to face serious challenges on the environmental front. Issues of sand mining, pollution, the loss of vegetation require much more and serious attention. All these issues have been highlighted rather alarmingly in the studies of IIT Madras and IISc Bangalore. Let me quote a few lines from my book before ending my talk. Satisfactory resolution of the environmental problems is a prerequisite to the supply side issues. Otherwise, the overall problem will only grow bigger and bigger. People from all walks of life in the entire Cauvery basin who inherit a great legacy should make earnest efforts to safeguard Mother Cauvery so that the natural resource sustains both the rich tradition, culture, and the livelihood of the people, as it has been doing for ages. I thank you all for your interest and attention.
Hello, Mr. Ramakrishnan. I think, if I could make a comment, there is a certain presumption that the audience is aware of many of the technical issues. Mm-hmm. So where you mentioned CWMA, for instance, I doubt, I don't know how many people, perhaps I'm presuming, perhaps a lot of people know, but right. I, for one, don't know what is the
song. Okay.
So I think many of the things in your lecture, there is a certain presumption that the audience knows some of the historical signposts, for instance, some of the technical issues. It will be useful, at least for me and perhaps for a few more people, if you break this up.
Fine.
Your speech, like a good journalist, you've given us some things to ponder about the motivation of some of the main characters, but some of the broader framework perhaps will be more helpful.
Okay. Anyway, CWMA is one. No? Then anything else?
Historically, a sort of chronological account was, you start from the 1950s, but the dispute runs, and this 1924 agreement, you sort of take you say the Karnataka position is perhaps not justified, but we don't know what is the position. That is the issue.
Anyway, I will first say about this. See, I don't think that, anyway, I didn't say about the thing. Tamil Nadu, but Mysore position was not just, that was not my point. Okay, anyway, I will, let me come, first, anyway, let me say about this CWMA. Of course, CWMA is a Cauvery Water Management Authority. It's an implementation mechanism, okay? There is a law called Interstate River Water Disputes Act, 1956. That under the Act, if a tribunal is constituted, tribunal consists of 3 judges, okay? Sometimes even a judge of Supreme Court is taken, but anyway, 3 judges. And then, in the case of Cauvery, everything was much more, I would say, complicated or much more complex than other interstate river disputes. Of course, this Cauvery, as you all know, that it's a deficit basin. Deficit basin means the supply and supply demand is mismatch. Okay. In other interstate rivers like Krishna or Godavari or Narmada, the disputes were over sharing of surplus waters. But here, over the waters, the existing, okay, so the requirement is much more than what is available in the basin. So that's the fundamental difference. So I thought I should not repeat all those things. That's why I didn't say. Anyway, this under the Act you have this tribunal, and then tribunal 19. In fact, it's a long drawn, 1983, when Farmers Association of Tamil Nadu, they went to the court, and then 86, 87, 86. Tamil Nadu also impleaded. Then, of course, the tribunal began its report with the Tamil Nadu government's letter to central government. Anyway, so I think Mr. Chandrasekhar has pointed out that even the tribunal's first chapter itself gives some sort of bias in favor of Tamil Nadu. But anyway, they have to begin, the report had to begin somewhere. So the report began with the Tamil Nadu government's letter. That's how I view it. Anyway, so it went on for years. You see, the litigation went on for years. And then I think court was very, very considerate. They didn't want tribunal, they didn't give any order in favor of Tamil Nadu, just like that, you see. And then they gave time to the states to arrive at an understanding, because everybody knew that if you are going to court, it will take years. So if you want settlement, you do it among yourself. That was so then talks took place. April 1990, one round of talks. And then my book, there's a very lively picture taken in Delhi, and Virendra Patil and Karnanidhi. I think it was because in 1968, Virendra Patil was CM and Karnanidhi was Public Works Minister. So after 22 years, they again met, rather after 20 years. Okay, so I don't know what jokes they shared, but it was a very lively photograph, okay, with this Virendra Patil and Karnanidhi. So the talks took place, and then one more round took place in Chennai. No agreement, and then so they went and told the Supreme Court, no agreement. So then fine, okay, then they gave an order for the establishment of the tribunal. They said 30 days. They gave so that's where. So the Cauvery Water Disputes Tribunal came into being in June 1990, on June 2nd, 1990. May 4th was the order. The last day, 30th day, of course, a lot of in the 30 days, lot of, again, discussions took place. Karnataka again made an offer. Why can't we have talks? But nothing doing and all that anyway. I think VP Singh was Prime Minister, and he was in Bangalore in that period. And reporters asked him, would you facilitate talks? Then he said, Supreme Court has given an order, so I will have to comply with the order. That was the... Anyway, so then the 1990 to 2007, 17 years. So in the meantime, the interim order is, again, that concept is something new to any interstate river water dispute. The previous tribunals did not give any interim order. Okay, so the Tamil Nadu approached, in fact, immediately after the constitution or the tribunal, they went to the tribunal, they said that we want interim relief. And that that petition was dismissed because the tribunal said that we didn't have any power or authority to give an interim order. So then Tamil Nadu went to Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court said that in this particular case, you can, so they said they didn't want to go into the larger question, whether the act had provided for interim relief or not, something like that. So that was there. So interim relief was given on the directions of the Supreme Court. So the tribunal just carried out the direction of the Supreme Court, that's all. So then whether interim order was valid or not, and then a lot of hullabaloo took place. And then Karnataka Assembly also, I think there was an ordinance is promulgated, and then Tamil Nadu again protested, and then again the matter went to Supreme Court. What was called presidential reference, they call it presidential reference. So then the Ranganath Mishra, Chief Justice, that is Deepak Misra, who gave this 2018 judgment. So Ranganath Mishra was the uncle of Deepak Misra. So Ranganath Mishra retired on November 23rd or 24th, 1990. So a day before his retirement, he gave the opinion, he and along with others, and then answering all the questions. Okay, so they said that interim order was valid, so they upheld the validity of the interim order, and then they quashed this ordinance, etc. So they like that. So then the order had to be gazetted, and then you all know in December 91, violence erupted in. So then interim order. Okay, then interim order, again any order, or this kind of order of this nature had to be implemented. So there has to be a scheme has to be drawn up for implementation. So that implementation mechanism is what Cauvery River Authority, which was headed by Prime Minister, and that was in existence between 98 and 2013. And then you had now the implementation mechanism is Cauvery Water Management Authority. So there is one full-fledged chairman and there are members, okay, agriculture, irrigation, all that. Of course, they also, and there is a committee which assists the authority, that is Cauvery Water Regulation Committee. So one of the members is the chairman of the committee, and then it's an interdisciplinary committee, okay, from Met Department, all that they were there. But of course, the representative of the states concerned are also there. Okay, so that's the scheme about the implementation mechanism, CWMA and CWRC. But in the case of interim order, somehow they wanted to keep everything, make it everything high profile. So you had Prime Minister as the chairman of the Cauvery River Authority, which was meant to ensure the implementation of the interim order. And then the CMs of the states concerned, that is 4 states, they were all members. And then you had that kind of Cauvery Water Monitoring Committee, something like that they had. CMC, they say. So there, the ministers, chief secretaries were there. I think Mr. Ravindra was also, must have attended all those meetings in 2002. So that's the scheme they had in interim order. But then that scheme was very much criticized because Prime Minister, CMs are all very busy people. Okay, they can't be bothered for Cauvery just like that. Okay, and then Prime Minister, in fact, in 2002, Vajpayee had to even postpone, reschedule his departure for the US. Okay, so like that, so that difficulty was felt, and then everybody, and then Tamil Nadu was kept on saying it's a toothless wonder. Okay, that they called CRA, particularly Jayalalitha is famous for coming up with wonderful phrases. So she called it a toothless wonder. So like that, so okay, fine, you call it toothless wonder, so we'll make it a workable mechanism. So I think the tribunal deliberated. Of course, tribunal gave in its final order, they gave an outline of how an implementation mechanism could be. I think they were saying Bakra Bias. That was their example they cited. But then I think they went in for something else, and then so some sort of via media was found out. Of course. So anyway, that's the scheme that they have. It's apparently unglamorous scheme, I would say. But so far, except last year, I think they didn't have much difficulty in getting the order implemented, the final order implemented. But it was fine. That is, if it works out well, then we shouldn't be concerned too much about the personalities. Okay. That's my, so long as it's working, it's fine, yes.
I have not understood.
Excuse me, the other person raised this. Can you give the mic to him and take it?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I have not understood because I am slightly new to this issue. What I understand is the Supreme Court gave a final verdict in 2018. And after that verdict, there was a direction or decision of the Supreme Court that X amount of water should be for Karnataka and Y amount of water should be for Tamil Nadu and some small portion also for Kerala and other states, for Pondicherry, I believe. Now, after this decision of the Supreme Court and setting up this Cauvery Water Management Authority and stuff like that, is it working or it's not working? I want to ask you because 18 to this 24, 6 years.
Yes, 6
and
years.
actually the test of the agreement comes only when there is shortage of water. There is surplus water, enough rain, no problem.
You see,
So I want to understand from you.
that's fine. The point is this: the authority is not one of high-profile people. Okay, it's all engineers, some officers. Okay, maybe they are all low profile, or they want to maintain low profile. The efficacy of the CWMA scheme was put to test last year, okay? And they said, first time because those years, 2018 to 23, not much of problem, and 22, some 660 TMCFT, so it all came, so Tamil Nadu had nothing to complain, that is Tamil Nadu. Anyway, but last year it was put to test. Initially, of course, this from August onwards, I think they started having heated discussions. From then, but initially, the Karnataka did not agree to comply with the orders of the authority or the committee. Okay, not every time authority meets. Okay, in fact, committee meets more frequently than authority. And then they all went to Supreme Court, and then eventually Supreme Court said that you comply with the whatever committee or authority says. So that Karnataka complied. Okay, the point is this, whether the quantum of water ordered or stipulated by the committee or the authority was sufficient for Tamil Nadu or not, it's another matter.
That's another matter.
Okay, that's another matter. But eventually, they complied with the orders or of the. So yeah, if you ask me, is it working? Yes, it's working. Only thing, it's not a very high profile.
High profile will be to work. Actually, high profile may not work. High profile may be a problem in working.
See, my question is connected, and I had two parts to the same question. One you answered in terms of deficit. The other thing is what happens to the common man who doesn't understand many of these technicalities. The two political setups in both the states also whip up the feelings, and that also causes data being obfuscated, and then people get into the jingoistic mood. So how do we tackle this also? See, today it is fine, both the governments are from the same party. So there is a political angle also to this. Any comments on that?
Anyway, it's a very difficult, but point is this, I think at least in intelligentsia on either of the Cauvery side should deliberate these matters much more dispassionately, and then they should try to sensitize or, I don't want to use the term educate, but at least sensitize people of, you see, there is no point in whipping up sentiments, okay? But there are people, in fact, in the morning I got a call from a farmer's leader who is in Manargudi, of course. And then I think the farmers of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they are going to meet, I think, in Delhi on 22nd. So I think there are some sober elements, okay, on either side. And I think, so in fact, I informed him, I was supposed to meet Mr. D.K. Shivakumar today, but that didn't take place. That meeting didn't take place. I think he was held up in some hospital. And then, so that didn't take place. But then that farmer, he accidentally called me. So I just informed him that I might meet DKS. So the answer to your question is that the problem in India, I think, at least I would say, some parts of India, let me say, is that you also play to the gallery. Okay, you know that you take a very narrow parochial line, but still even the so-called educated, okay, otherwise well-informed people, they also play to the gallery. In fact, there is nobody wants to present a contrarian view, okay. So the popular narrative is for one thing. Fine, you go along with that. That is, I think, that's becoming the norm. That is somewhat dangerous, or I would say very disturbing. Okay, I think there must be at least in every society at least one or two individuals who must say that don't try to talk the language that okay, you would have used some 50, 60 years ago, but not to use it any longer. That's that kind of. So I think what I find more problematic with the so-called educated or otherwise well-informed section is that they also play to the gallery. They don't want to. They could have given a contrarian view, but they don't want to give. They didn't want to be seen as a villain, okay, in courts. So that's the crux of the problem, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Ramakrishnan, thank you for a very positive approach to the Cauvery. And as you mentioned, as you and I know, it has a long history. And going back into history will not solve any problems because you can't undo whatever has happened. But then the sad part of it is that there has been a lot of acrimony and a lot of bitterness, and people have been divided on linguistic and regional basis. And that shouldn't have happened. And in a span of 31 years, we have had 2 books. The first book is by Mr. Guhan, and he calls it Towards Reconciliation. And today's talk is about collaboration. And I think this is very wonderful that we are talking about conciliation and collaboration. This is what is required. And if you permit me, I'll quote a little thing from Mr. Guhan's book. He quotes the Buddha about how a certain river dispute was resolved. And finally he says, all shall be well if good men try. So I think in Mr. Ramakrishnan and Mr. Guhan, we have good men. And the Supreme Court has given us a verdict that Karnataka's responsibility is 177.25 TMC in a water year. You and I have no problems at all when nature is kind to us. But then when the rainfall is less, and then there are some issues about the so-called distress formula about which the farmer community is very worried. And some time ago, there was an unofficial coming together of the farmers of the 2 states. It was called the Cauvery family. Do you think the Cauvery family can approach the Cauvery Waters Regulation Committee and come up with a solution under Section 6 and 10 of the Government of India notification, which is a part of Annex 6 of your book? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think you can, I think they can approach, that is Cauvery family, or even in fact, the farmer who spoke to me, I think it's not just a farmer, but anyway, he's one of the important leaders of Tamil Nadu farming community. He had given a representation some time back, but I think the authority is yet to take up this distress sharing formula. I think only last year they tried to deliberate on the formula that was somewhat worked out in 2002-03. But then, so anyway, because this the years of plenty make this formula irrelevant, okay, or even the years of comfort. Only between June and September, that southwest monsoon, there you have that out of 177, I think 120 TMCFT is to be given. So there, the formula's scope is limited to those 4 months. That is, by and large, I would say. One can give, but the point is this: perhaps there the authority, maybe wanting to have the states to discuss about the importance of a formula much more intensely. I don't know. So, and then perhaps they want some sort of pressure to be exerted on themselves. That is, I mean, the authority, because as of now they don't feel the need for. They could have, in fact, those years between 2018 and 2022, they could have worked out the formula, okay, and then things would have been much more easy. But the point was, that time the authority did not do anything. In fact, the authority did not have chairman for full-fledged chairman for a couple of years. Then Haldar was posted only in 2022 or something like that. So yes, they can approach, they can approach. That's not an issue. But I think I just want to respond to Vikar's second point. I think you said 24. No, I was not making any statement about the justification or otherwise of Mysore's stand on, in that sense, Mysore's position prior to the accord. I am only making my point is limited to the consequence of the 24 accord, and then because 24 accord is most of the time between say 1970s and 2018, because the Supreme Court judgment was hailed by the present CM. Okay, so during that period, you would often come across Karnataka leaders making statements saying that the accord was imposed on us, we were treated a vassal state, all that. Okay, of course there are certain orders. I don't dispute this outside in the sense the communication from Madras government to Mysore or communication from Government of India to Mysore. But my point is the 24 accord did not prevent Mysore from formulating its proposals and then from going ahead. Nobody stopped, I think. So eventually all the dams became a reality that, of course, with the Cauvery basin. By 1980, everything is ready. So during the crucial years, there is that way, that's what I would say, that Kamaraj, had he expressed anything against Mysore's plans, then things might have been, because Kamaraj's stature, and then Kamaraj was sort of known as sort of a bulldozer. He would get things done. He was, of course, he didn't have a formal education much, and he was known as a doer. Okay, there are many anecdotes how he got things done with regard to the development of state. I mean, in the positive sense. In fact, there was one story. They would say that IIT Madras. Okay, IIT Madras was, so the IITs, they decided to set up IITs. And then Prime Minister said that, of course, this you have Delhi, Daulokma, I think not that place, Delhi. Anyway, it's southern part of Delhi. No, IIT Delhi. Anyway, but my point is that if you see the IIT Mumbai or IIT Calcutta, everything on the outskirts or somewhere, okay. But with regard to then when Tamil Nadu or Madras tried to have this demanded IIT, then the condition laid down by Nehru was that I need some place within the city limits. Okay, so that was the condition Nehru stipulated, and my reading is that between Kamaraj and Nehru, it was a very, of course, they were all colleagues, but very formal. I won't say that it was a very warm relationship they had. Okay, it's a very formal, sort of rigid one. So the minister was sent, C. Subramaniam was sent, I think, to Delhi to discuss this matter. And then Kamaraj told him, you must come back with IIT. Okay, I don't want any other reply. Okay, I want the project to be done here. So he said that you take any decision you want. Then Nehru, it seems, demanded, where is the spot that you want? And then he was, then it seems C. Subramaniam told Nehru, saying that I need to have a word with my CM. And then, in fact, Kamaraj was furious with CS. He said that I had authorized you to take any decision. So why are you coming back to me? And then, he says he wants some specific, he wants me to specify the place. So where we would have the 500 acres? So then it seems apparently it was Kamaraj who said that Raj Bhavan, Raj Bhavan's governor. Why should a governor require that much place? Okay. So you tell him that we will give place in Gindi. Okay. Then we'll talk to governor and say that, Hare Baba, you have to give this much portion to. So that's how IIT came. In fact, it's adjoining Raj Bhavan. Okay. So the point I'm making is Kamaraj was that kind of sort of doer, sort of sometimes bulldoze. He would in fact in his he was known for using very rustic language. It might sound even coarse, but he meant business. So my point was that had Kamaraj expressed anything adversely about Karnataka's plans, I think things would have been much worse. So he kept mum, I think. He didn't say anything. Sorry. Here.
So, what's the health of the river per se? We've been discussing the dispute, but is it, the throughput has increased over the years, or will it become like the Saraswati and become a seasonal Gagran, Hakra, Nala? What's your take on the future of the Cauvery overall?
I don't see the IIT Madras did a study, 5-year study. Okay, they had a press conference in Madras last year, October, and the study's findings were very alarming. It's particularly with regard to the pollution. Okay, and then so I'm not a person with science background. Okay, but. Let me quote one or two. So they said that, but they were in October 21, the findings of a study by the Indian Institute of Technology Madras revealed to the media in October 21 were extremely disturbing. The study found that a range of contaminants, including pharmaceutical compounds, personal care products, plastics, flame retardants, heavy metals, and pesticides polluted the Cauvery. Researchers who had carried out the study in 22 locations along the entire stretch of the river pointed out that Kanakapura near Bangalore and Mettur near Salem are the most polluted stretches. And this was funded by Department of Science and Technology. And then of course, you have IISc study says about natural vegetation is going down. Of course, it will become a mystical river if we keep quiet. The indications are quite clear, okay? And then I don't think there will be any political pressure. Nobody is going to apply political pressure on the governments of either states to set right. And then, of course, I think they have been implementing one conservation program for years together. But I have not come across any tangible impact of anti-pollution program. So it might become and then the point is this: the river sand mining had been allowed on the side of Tamil Nadu indiscriminately for years. Of course, mafias are there, and one of the reasons for farmers' complaint is that of not getting enough water is that because the river bed had gone down much below the distributory's off-take point. Okay, So, so whatever the quantum of water that may flow in the river, that may not reach the paddy fields in the delta, because the Karur and Tirchi, Karur downstream, you see, there they had taken much of the river sand, okay. So you will have, so if you don't act, and of course for the time being, river sand mining has been stopped, okay, or suspended. I had some discussion with one of the big officers in Tamil Nadu government last week. He says that there is enormous pressure on me to revoke the ban, okay. So big lobbies are working. So big lobbies are working to ensure the what shall I say, the degradation of the river system. That's the bigger problem, I would say. There is this Tamil Nadu demanding this much TMC, that much TMC. That's fine, okay. That's all manageable, okay. But if you allow the river to be killed, then what's there to be shared?
Sorry, was there somebody else? Yeah. I had two questions actually. One was, you mentioned this deficit, that Cauvery works on deficit. Were you able to do any study on any other rivers where this kind of deficit?
Any other river don't have this problem. The point is this. Sorry. Of course, Cauvery is unique in the sense it is a deficit basin. So
you didn't.
So that doesn't apply. Okay. That doesn't apply because they are all fighting for, say, Krishna, or Godavari, or Narmad. They are fighting over the surplus waters. Yeah. Okay, so here you don't have enough. That's the basic difference between Cauvery and the other rivers.
Got it. The second question I had was even this 117 or whatever that sharing and all that. Has this been from a ground up where the farmers or others were involved or some farmer associations, because very often when we take people along and make them the problem solvers, even in the future, we'll be giving the destiny in the right hands rather than the mafias and, whatever. I mean, anything, I don't know the history. So I was just wondering whether even these amounts or this water sharing, all this, whatever was done, was it done with a consensus of the people who are the primary actors?
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so 177.25 TMCFT was worked out by Supreme Court from the final order. Okay, final order was 192 or something like that. So they then they said that some 5 TMCFT of 5.75 for Bangalore and something for environmental flows. This environmental flows is for 10 TMCFT because somebody asked me what is that environmental flows, because you have sanctuary, you have riverine system is the so it is not the only human being who is there in the basin. Okay, there are other living beings. Okay. So they require water, okay. So that is why this 10 TMCFT is given. In fact, the last meeting in the CW Central, the Cauvery Water Regulatory Committee meeting, Tamil Nadu's contention was that because the Karnataka complained that you released water during summer, okay. You emptied your Mettur dam, which you could have saved some water, and then you should not be complaining now. But then the Tamil Nadu's point was that that was for environmental flows. So that was that was the point they made. Okay, I'm not going into the accuracy or whether, but the point was this: when this dispute, when we discuss, it's a number of sanctuaries. Okay, natural vegetation, so many things are there. See, it's not just, it's not human-centric. So that is why the the tribunal and Supreme Court. And of course, the 10 TMCFT, they said that the Supreme Court said for the groundwater, actually, one of the points against Tamil Nadu by Karnataka was that there is so much groundwater available in the basin, in the Tamil Nadu side of the basin, that has not been taken into account while stipulating this much, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So then they said, okay, they said some time ago, 1968, they said 20 TMCFT. So it was the estimate worked out by one UN team. So they said, okay, 10 TMCFT. But point is that there is a free power supply, you see, in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has been having free power supply for farmers from 1984. Okay, small, what they call small and marginal farmers. That is, small and marginal farmers are defined as those owning land, say 2.5 acres of wetland or 5 acres of dry land. Okay, up to this, they are called small and marginal farmers. Okay, so that's first, the free electricity was given to small and marginal farmers in 1984. Okay, in 1990, Karnataka, at the time, first time 84, MGR was there, CM. So that time election year, so he announced it. And in 1990, 1 week before VP Singh government, faced no confidence motion, Karnataka sensing that VP Singh government would fall and there would be a parliamentary election, everything, So he said, no, even other farmers, that is, we say big farmers, okay, those who own beyond more than 2.5 acres of wetland or 5 acres of dry land, they are also given. So today you have about 25 lakh connections, agricultural connections, 25 lakh connections. And then, I'm not exaggerating, the farmers have been using left and right, okay. Of course, if I tell my farmer friends, they will all, okay. And then they raise paddy during summer, okay. They raise paddy during summer, okay. So groundwater is being utilized left and right indiscriminately because you don't have to pay anything, okay. And then how efficient the energy pump sets are, we don't know, okay. In fact, government wanted to do a study, Karnataka government. Farmers said nothing doing. In fact, Karnataka government offered that we will replace your energy pump sets with new pump sets, energy efficient pump sets. Thank you, sir, very much. Please don't step into our area. So the scheme fell through. There is, so the point is that, and then there is, of course, free power supply was supposedly for a particular capacity of, pump set, this 5 HP, 7.5 HP, 10 HP. So how many farmers, so I said 23, 24 lakhs. So most of them would be using that capacity, their capacity, that horsepower capacity would be much more than 10, 12, 15, 20, 50, 100. Okay, nobody knows the actual consumption. Okay, and these days only one saving grace is that they are all, meters are being installed. Meters are being installed, otherwise unmetered, okay, unmetered. So we don't, the Tamil Nadu government has no idea of, it's all approximate figure they will give. What is the share of agriculture with regard to energy consumption? It is using the formula of deduction, addition, blah, blah, blah. But it's not exact. Only off late, they are giving, even for that, there was a lot of opposition from farmers. Okay. And then, so the point I'm making is, in the delta, the desertification is happening, the Cauvery delta of Tamil Nadu. Okay? So they are using water left and right, and then, so if you go and tell them you conserve water judiciously, you conserve, they will give you tappad, okay? That's all. So, but the point is, they don't want to. So they say that we will use, so long as it's government giving us free. Then some people said that we didn't demand free power supply. They are giving free. Okay, so that's the. So we were. Anyway, that's nothing. I've digressed much. But the point I'm making is in Tamil Nadu, the groundwater table. There is this. They said that 10 TMCFT is. I'm not sure how, because it's, anyway, but fortunately the last 3-4 years, Northeast monsoon was very good, okay. So again, we all, only the, okay,
Yeah,
please.
so two parts. Some of it has been answered
Okay.
already. But I was just thinking, I mean, how do you make a choice between the livelihood of people in one side of the river and of the border and the livelihood of people on the other side? How do you make a choice? Especially with a deficit river. And the other part of the question is that why is there a fight every year about sharing the water? Why have they not used people, like, MIT has very good connection with IIT Madras, MIT USA. So why have they not taken the systems thinking approach? You yourself said everything depends on the water. So why don't people come and make a study and, recommend how to increase the flow of the river, how to optimize the usage of the water?
Yeah, of course, to answer your question, how can you make a choice? So I don't think, as far as the livelihood is concerned, I think that question is concerned. I don't think that can. I don't think that can be. There is. I don't think that. I can't make any choices. So it's so that the livelihood of people on the one side is as important as livelihood of people on the other. But as far as the second part, you are, I think, well-meaning. Your suggestion is well-meaning. But the point is this, we have made a number of studies. Excellent studies are there. Excellent recommendations are there. Only thing, will is lacking, okay. Perhaps they may say, if you go and ask the politicians, okay, if nature is fine, then everything will be all right. Okay, so there is not only a reluctance on the part of the political class on either side, but also some sort of, they are suffering from some sort of insecurity. That is, if they might be accused of having sold out interest of their states to the other side. So that they don't want to get into, okay. Even otherwise, they are very on shaky grounds, I think. That's what their understanding of their own position. Because they don't, so that's the problem. That is why, right or wrong, some accord, some understanding could have been arrived at, okay. And no accord will be flawless, no accord will be perfect, okay. There will be some groups which would be, they would keep on saying that you have given up our interest and all that. Let me go back to Kamaraj, only one thing, because the sharing of land, you see, what is as tricky as sharing of water, okay. And when the Andhra Pradesh, first it was Andhra, and then only Andhra Pradesh. Okay, Andhra was created in 1953, October 1, 1953. And then Andhra Pradesh, after merging the Nizam state, Andhra Pradesh came into being November 1, 1956. Some areas, on the border areas, between Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Both states were climbing. Okay. Chittoor was one of the districts. Tirutani, place, and then Tirupati also, Tamil Nadu, because Tirupati and Tirutani both are Tamil names. Okay. And then eventually between Kamaraj and Sanjeev Reddy, then there was some sort of understanding. Then they said that, okay, you take this much, I take this much, and it is great. This statesmanship was with. There is. I won't say that they were all men without any weaknesses, all that. Okay, both Kamaraj and Sanjeev Reddy had their own shortcomings, weaknesses. Everybody knew, but with all that, they worked out that sharing of the land resources very smoothly. There was, in fact, at the same time in Maharashtra, Gujarat, all that, tanks were, Morarji Desai, I think, tanks were out on the streets of Mumbai. But in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, they worked out very quietly and also very smoothly. So when that can be worked out by same people, you see, it's not very long ago. I'm talking about 1950s, 60s maximum. Okay. So, but they were sure of themselves. So that's the difference between people like Kamaraj or Sanjeev Reddy and people. So that's the, in fact, the post-independence history of South India has much to offer. And as I think, I don't want to sound parochial, but at the cost of sounding parochial, I would say that South Indians don't talk much about their own history, okay, how they solved many of their problems. And in fact, even with regard to Kerala, Tamil Nadu had problems, and then in the sense this Kanyakumari was part of Travancore Samasthanam. Okay. Kanyakumari was part of Travancore Samasthanam, and Travancore, they felt, because paddy growing area, and that was the very important for them. And then, but still they agreed to give that because there was some agitation, all that was going on, and Kanyakumari eventually was given to Tamil Nadu. And then this, you have this Mullaperiyar, Thekadi, okay. That area was demanded by some people in fact, the State's Reorganization Commission went into all those aspects. But then Kamaraj said, okay, you, even otherwise this Mullaperiyar was part of Travancore Samasthanam, okay, even otherwise. We had that 1885 agreement between Madras Presidency and that was for 999 years, okay. And then, of course, Travancore had Kerala had every reason, even now, has every reason to feel aggrieved over such a long tenure. But Supreme Court said nothing doing, it's all fine, you have to honor the. So what I'm saying is, then the Kamaraj said that you keep Mullaperiyar with you, then you give us. So it's all possible. It's not that it's something, you're talking about impossible things. And the last 75 years of history in southern part of India itself has so many inspiring accounts. Okay. So, Professor, you were about to ask something.
See, it's a serious issue. There is a very strong sand mine and government is helpless, and you have already set up a tribunal. Why can't make these terms of reference to the tribunal to keep an eye on all these sand mining mafia, and then deepening the river, wasting so much of water, and the river not reaching to the irrigated land. So why can't you increase the powers of the tribunal if both the states are serious about saving the water?
See, you are getting into, anyway, that's again, it's a very well-meaning suggestion. Of course, this, there is no, the tribunal is no longer in existence. It is Cauvery Water Management Authority. But Water Management Authority's mandate is to ensure implementation of the 2007 final award as modified by the Supreme Court in 2018. Okay? This is number one. So they can't go beyond the final award as modified by. And then if you are, there is of course this river sand is I think a minor mineral. Okay, I think Constitution of India says minor minerals are all subjects come under the control of state government. So that's a constitutional issue you have raised. Okay, so I don't think any state government would like to give up its constitutional power, okay, over a resource such as river sand, and then that's, of course, this is very well-meaning. So it is up to the states, I think. They have to.
Even this Cauvery Water Management Authority, even they would have a powers?
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank T Ramakrishnan for bringing today's session to BIC. Thank you to the audience for spending your evening with us.